The society really trims us and tells us who is successful. I think it's a different definition, what is success, and we have to distinguish between success and fulfillment, I would say. And at the end, it's key to merge them, but the fulfillment part must be given there too.
Before we start the show, I have a quick question for you. Is your resume stuck in the rejection pile? At Resume Assassin, I create powerful resumes that showcase your skills, experience, and achievements, getting you noticed by recruiters. I'll also optimize your LinkedIn profile, transforming it into a magnet for opportunity. Visit resumeassassin.com today and take charge of your job search. Visit resumeassassin.com. All right, guys, so welcome back to the podcast. I'm glad that you're here with us today because we're going to be exploring the power of career clarity and how aligning your purpose with your professional goals can lead to true success and fulfillment. Our guest will share strategies for uncovering what truly drives you, navigating the intersection of passion and career, and building a life that feels both meaningful and rewarding. Daniel Hartweg, welcome to Recruiting Insider.
Thanks a lot and welcome to you too.
Joining me today is Daniel Hartweg, the creator of the High Performing Organization Program 4.0 and author of 3 books, including High Performing Organization and The Mindset Challenger. So Daniel, to kind of kick off our conversation today, what does career clarity mean to you, and how do you think it impacts a person's overall sense of success and fulfillment?
Yeah, for me, I think career clarity is very important because when I think back, when I was young, I just studied because my father was engineer, so I started to study engineering too. But I was not fully clear what I really want in my career, in my life, and I did what everybody did. So after university, I wanted to become factory manager because it was like the trend, also my colleagues, and I started my career as project manager, but always had in mind to become a factory manager. And, I was actually very keen in the beginning of my journey. I traveled around a lot, met lots of exciting people, learned a lot. But again, I wanted to get this job, and after that I became production manager. And then finally, with 34 years, I reached my dream job, and I realized that, okay, I conducted everything I had to do. It was exciting at the beginning.
Yeah.
But then a certain emptiness also started. And that's why I think it's really important to know where you want to go in your career, what you want to do, and not just doing the traditional journey.
Yeah.
Because also, I find many people, they do the traditional careers, but at a certain point in their life, they don't feel fully engaged, a little bit frustrated. And I think it's really important to find out how to avoid this disengagement and to be with full engagement in the career.
Yeah. You mentioned that you felt some emptiness in your career at some point. So for any of our listeners that are like, I think I feel a similar type of emptiness, what did that emptiness actually feel like to you, and how did you address it?
Yeah, so it was not that I was unhappy or anything, but I just thought, what next? Because I already reached what I wanted to get. And for me, it was, I went to work, I was chasing green KPIs, so achieving the targets, but I thought I want to bring more meaning into the work life. And then I started to implementing high performing team workshops with the audience, so with all employees. And we went offsite 2 days, and I trained all the employees. And what I really loved there is that they developed, they got a spark in their eyes afterwards, they grew, they developed, and this satisfied myself a lot, because it was not just running behind the goals from the business, but really also developing the people. And these were the first moments where I thought, okay, this gives me meaning. And I also felt a high level of engagement there.
Yeah, and I think that that's what we're all just chasing, right? We're chasing a career that is going to give us meaning. It's going to give us purpose, or, it's going to fulfill us and it's going to light us up. And I think that you're absolutely right. And I think many people can relate to you, where it's like, they climb the corporate ladder, and sometimes they, maybe they hit that glass ceiling. It seems like they've achieved everything that they want in their career, but there's still that emptiness where it's like, I thought I was drawing meaning from this, but now my life has changed and evolved in a way that maybe I need to step out and I need to do something else and find meaning in a different career path. So to somebody who's like, well, I've loved my career. I've had a very successful career, but now I'm really struggling to find meaning. What would you tell somebody like that? What could they do?
Yeah, for me, meaning has actually two parts. On the one hand, I want to wake up in the morning and say, wow, great, I want to do that job. I love what I do. So the first part are really the passions and talents that I have, that I can apply them. And therefore, I need also a work environment where it's possible to apply that. And quite often, if there's micromanagement or toxic work environment, it's really difficult. But otherwise, if it's possible, then applying these passions and talents. And on the other hand, I think if we only do what we love to do, there's still a missing point, and which is giving something to the society, to other people, and to help them. So on the one hand, it's what I love to do. On the other hand, to also find something that creates a meaning in terms of bringing benefit to other people, society, environment, or anything. And I think these two parts are really important to implement in the work. And this is what I would also recommend everybody to find out, looking in the past, what were the moments where I was really immersed in my work, where the time was flying by in this so-called flow state. Yeah, and I think we all had these moments doing some sports as hobbies or also at work, right?
Yep,
for example, when I was playing table tennis, I was also fully immersed, but I knew it's just a hobby. So I had to also find something where I was really passionate. And as I mentioned, these workshops, there I entered in these flow states. And on the other hand, it's really also to find something that brings a benefit for the other people to get this feeling of meaning, because the money is important for up to a certain level, but after that, it's just not meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when I look back to my career, I would say 6 years ago, I was in a position where I adored my job. I thought it was a wonderful job, but I felt this sense of unfulfillment, and it was everything in that position. It checked the box, right? I was working for a really high profile organization. I was working with the people that I loved. I was making decent money with great benefits, but there was just, there was something there that I couldn't put my finger on that just wasn't fulfilling me anymore. Something in me had kind of switched and changed, and I was scared, honestly, to take the step to actually figure out, well, is this what I want to do? And if this isn't what I want to do, what's that next step for me? So for somebody that's like trying to figure out, okay, maybe this career path isn't the right fit for me at this point in my life right now, how would you guide that person to help them really align their current passions, their current skills, strengths, with with the next step in their career?
Yeah, I personally believe it's not about positions or job profiles. It's really about first having this clarity. What is my purpose? Yeah, we need really, as I personally did a 2-day workshop, actually 2-3 times until I got this clarity. So digging in the past, what fulfills me. And once we have this clarity, the next step is also to find out what are the limiting beliefs that pop up. Because if we go out of our comfort zone into the learning zone and trying out something new, our brain will directly tell us, don't do it, you have a safe job, you have sufficient money. And I think that's quite normal. And I think that the clearer your values and your purpose is, the stronger you have the courage to do it. But it's not an easy one. And I think we should also be realistic, because we still have to earn money, we still have to be successful. And but I actually like a 4-step process. So the first part is to find really the purpose. Again, it's the passion and the impact that we have on others. Then checking what our brain is doing, so overcoming the limiting beliefs. And then the third step is to find out what are really the talents that we have, and also the core competences that we have to develop. So to find out, if we apply our purpose, what makes us special, so that we also have a competitive advantage, because if we do not have this, we will never be successful. And then as the last step, then I would go really in the direction, what kind of job profile do I want to apply, or what kind of services do I want to offer? And actually it does not matter if it's in the corporate world or as an entrepreneur, as long as the environment allows you to live in alignment with the purpose, with your talents and core competences, I think then it's really fine. But I'm really a fan of these 4 steps, and quite often we just look for money, position, authority, power, so at the last part, but we miss what really fulfills us. And I think we will only be happy if we align all these 3 to 4 steps.
Yeah. Yeah, when we
just
really...
just
go
one
ahead.
point. For example, I think nowadays, if we ask people, do you really know what is your purpose and do you feel completely happy in your job? I think the responses are quite low, actually. And also the Gallup Institute, we know these surveys, right? So in the US, 2/3 of the people are disengaged at work, and worldwide 80%. So it's really a high number.
Wow.
And that's why I also think it's really a crucial point of life, because we spend so many hours at work, and to spend some time to dig deeper, what is the purpose, what are the talents, the core competencies, and how can we really apply them in daily life is key.
I read that statistic as well, where 80% of people are unsatisfied with their work. And that's a staggering and an astonishing number. It's crazy, really, to think about that the majority of people in the world are unsatisfied in their work. And when you think about how much time and energy you put into your job, that leads to overall, probably for a lot of people, a very unsatisfying life. So why do you think so many people actually struggle to why do you think so many people actually struggle to connect their professional goals with their personal sense of purpose?
That's a good question. I think there's a huge influence from society and from the corporate world itself. Also from the past, we were trimmed to go to work and also do work that we don't love, just to get the money, to have this security, the financial one. And I think nowadays more and more people realize that there's something more. The fixed structure is not really fulfilling. And I also always like to use the Maslow's hierarchy. So we have I would say the first 4 levels, the physiological aspects, they are quite fulfilled, I would say, in the industrial nations, but also the topics of belonging, financial security, team is given when, I would say, the work environment is not toxic. But the 5th level, so the self-actualization, which in my opinion is the purpose, is the mastery. So really to develop, to grow, to learn, and the autonomy to choose what we want to do. This is the part that is often missing. And but back to your question, I think the society really trims us and tells us who is successful. I think it's a different definition. What is success? And we have to distinguish between success and fulfillment, I would say. And at the end, it's key to merge them, but the fulfillment part must be given there too.
Society has, such a huge pull when it comes to what job that you decide that you want to do. I've had a lot of conversations with clients recently, actually, talk about, there are these societal pressures, but there's also family pressure too. So for somebody that grew up in a house of doctors or lawyers or engineers or teachers or whatever it might be, it's like there's this crazy pressure to continue on the tradition with your family, whether or not that profession aligns with your strengths, your skills, and your passions, and whether or not that lights you up. It just has such a draw. So how do you think, or I guess a better question would be, what's one step that someone could take today to really start aligning their work with what truly matters to them?
One step is to, as what I always, let's say it like this. For me, the main step or the main change happened when I reached my 40s, because it was like a switch in the brain. So now I'm coming to the second half of my life. And I think if we have this in mind, to see how much time do we spend with what we really love? It's the most important point. And once we realized that the time is limited and time is sometimes more important than money, then it's about going to the journey and seeing what I truly burn for. And for example, also for myself, it was really a tough decision. I had a good job in also a multinational company, quite a high salary, very secure, everything. And my brain was telling me, what are you doing? Yeah. As I mentioned before, when we know our values and what we stand for, and this authenticity part is so important for me that I knew I have to go that way. Otherwise, I would have regrets at the end of my life. And I think this is the main point, that we put ourselves at the end of our lives and say, how do I want to live my life and spend the time? And I think this is probably the biggest driver, because for me, it was actually, I thought, how do I want to spend my years, my time? And this drove me to leave my comfort zone and start my own business.
Yeah, no. I think that a lot of people are scared away by fear. Just like you said, you had this really high paying, stable job. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that, where it's like, why would I leave this job making $150,000, $200,000 a year and pursue a passion where maybe I'll make it or maybe I'll fall flat on my face? So, it's like you said, it's stepping out of that comfort zone and doing something that's really, really scary that can be so hard to do. So for somebody that's, listening to this, who they're comfortable because they have a job that pays them a lot, but they want to leave, but they just have that fear. How would you help them overcome that fear to take that first step toward finding something else?
Yeah, and quite often they also have, I would not say excuses, but for example, they have a family, they have a house, and lots of
100%. They have
issues
responsibility.
Right? Exactly, yeah. But again, one part is the clarity, what I really want in life. If this is crystal clear, for example, also, I was asked once if I want to get a higher job, and I said, no, it does not belong to what I stand for, what is my purpose. So once we have this, our values, our purpose, but then we also have to understand our brain. And our brain is a machine that always is telling us about all the dangers, the risks that can occur. And these are the thoughts, and I think we all get them. And the further we go into the learning zone and leave the comfort zone, the stronger these thoughts pop up. And the key is to understand that these thoughts are a natural mechanism from our brain. So from the Stone Age, when there was a saber-toothed tiger, the brain told us be careful, and it helped us to survive. But nowadays, if we leave the comfort zone, it has the same mechanism, but we have to understand that thoughts are only thoughts and it's not a reality. And I think we should understand that the thoughts, they can help us to understand the risks, but then we can take the right measures to counteract these risks, but still connect to our values and act accordingly. It's not easy because sometimes we are so immersed in our thoughts. It's like a fusion that we become our thoughts. And the key is then to diffuse. And there are some techniques that I like. For example, we need to be mindful when a thought pops up. And then there are techniques like thanking the mind for the thought and knowing it's just a thought, or saying I notice I'm having the thought and not I am the thought. So there's some possibilities to do that, and then really connecting to the values. And it's not easy, and sometimes it's also good to have some people around, maybe the partner who backs us up and supports us. But in general, the clarity part, to understand what the thoughts are telling us, and then maybe a support person. I think these are really valuable elements.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Our brain is so powerful. It can dictate, quite obviously, it dictates every single thing that we do, every decision that we make. But I love what you said, to just maybe take a step back and just sit quietly with yourself and listen to your thoughts, listen to what your brain's trying to tell you. And, maybe you can't always control your thoughts, but you can control your actions and your reactions to the thoughts that you're having. And, especially when it comes to a topic that's so important, like, gaining clarity and really finding purpose and fulfillment in life. And especially when it comes to your career, that can be absolutely transformational.
Absolutely. And I think, we all struggle a little bit with these thoughts, and really to recognize that they are not the truth, and then to connecting with the values is absolutely key.
Yeah. And you also mentioned that there are a lot of people too that have all this responsibility, right? They may have this big mortgage and a family and kids, and they're the breadwinner, right? So maybe their spouse doesn't work and they support their family. So do you think it's possible to find purpose and fulfillment in a role that might not be like your dream job?
That was also what I was thinking myself, to have to become an entrepreneur to be happy or not. And now I'm entrepreneur, and I also see there are lots of challenges, but but the purpose helps to overcome them and to be resilient. But I would say you can live your purpose in any kind of job if the environment allows you to apply your talents, passions, and is not toxic. And I would do it in a smart way, to be honest. If I have lots of responsibilities with children, family, house, etc., I would also not just resign and and do what I love to do. I would try on the first, apply my purpose already with certain topics in my current job. And that means, for example, if I love communication or training, I proactively ask, can I give trainings? Can I join a communication group or something in the company? If this is not enough for me and I want to dedicate more time, I can also have a look at the hobbies that I have if I want to bring it there. Or I can do a hybrid model. So because nowadays part-time work is possible. So staying in the company and doing the normal job there, getting the financial security, and then maybe 1 or 2 days I work for my own business could be also a solution. But we should not underestimate the financial part, because if this gets so strong, it will attack your brain all the time, and then maybe you cannot really live your purpose too. So I think we should do it in an intelligent way.
Yeah,
But still,
absolutely.
it should not be an excuse not to do it, because I think I also read this article from Ronnie Ware, the Australian nurse, and she was working in this palliative care station, and she did interviews with the dying patients. And the regret number one that everybody had, and far above everything else, is not to have lived the life authentic to ourselves, but to the expectations of others. And for me, that was also a big part, because I also started this traditional career and climbed the ladder, got more authority, more power, more money. But at the end, what counts is when we are at the end of our lives, look back, did I really live what I stood for?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that's so powerful to think about too. And, a lot of us don't like to sit here and think about how am I going to, when I'm at the end of my life, how am I going to look back at my life and feel? It's something that's really, really scary to think about, but it can be so powerful if you actually think about, am I going to be happy with the decisions that I made in my career and in my life? And you can sometimes even use that as a motivator to not necessarily quit your job and, pursue acting, but to take the steps, maybe take one step today to start pursuing a little more fulfillment and finding a little more purpose in your work. Like you said, Daniel, whether that's, maybe working on your business 2 days per week to start, or finding projects or initiatives that you can take on in your current role that more align with your strengths and values and things that truly fill you up.
I fully agree with you. And we can start with little, small, tiny actions that relate to our purpose, and then we can expand and expand more. Because coming back also to the topic of the disengagement, I think it's really a big part, the purpose, and if we live our passions or not, that contributes to this disengagement part. And also mental health issues. Some root causes are if we can live authentic or not. So one thing I think is the work environment, if it's toxic or not. And the other thing is, can I be really Daniel at work, or can you be Mary at work? And if we are squeezed into a position where we cannot live our values, I think this is the worst thing ever. And then the people resign internally. And I think that's the key, and also should be the trigger. We say, okay, these are my values. I want to live according to my values, according to my purpose. And what I also find interesting, so Daniel Pink, he wrote the book Drive, and I really like that, because these are the intrinsic motivational factors, and it's purpose, it's mastery, and autonomy. And this is exactly what this career clarity is about. So the purpose, bringing in my passions and some meaning, benefit for the others. The mastery, the learning curve, because we have to improve our core competences and talents, and the autonomy to choose what kind of product, services, or job I will use. And this is really a booster for our motivation. And I think then we can also, if the companies understand that if 80% of the workforce is disengaged, what this means for performance, and if they counteract it and adapt their work culture, I think this would be really a booster for their performance, also the fluctuation rate and everything.
Yeah, I love that. Purpose, mastery, autonomy. That's so powerful.
Yeah.
Have you seen any common patterns or breakthrough moments in people who've successfully aligned their career with, have you seen any common patterns or breakthrough moments in people who've successfully aligned their career with their purpose?
Definitively. So I think you feel when people are really doing what they love to do, there's a different kind of energy. They also don't distinguish between work and life. It's at the end their life. Sometimes they have to check then their energy management, not to just work. You too, yeah?
Yeah, I'm living that life.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, for you, for example, would you say when you wake up in the morning, you say, yeah, I love what I do and I'm fully passionate about it? Or
Oh my gosh, yeah, I could work. I mean, even on the weekends, I'm like, I'm always thinking about work. And I think that I absolutely love what I do, and that helps. And, and typically I'm working with clients on writing resumes and LinkedIn profiles. And what I found and what really lights me up and where I go into my flow state is when I'm writing. That's what I'm absolutely passionate about doing. And I love building my business and growing my brand. And as an entrepreneur, like you said, once you step out of the 9 to 5, there are other challenges that you run into. For me, one of them is finding that work-life balance because I love what I do so much and I think about it so much that it's hard to turn it off. But the good part is like, I don't get the Sunday scaries because I 100% look forward to waking up on Monday morning and working and doing what I love. And like I said, sometimes I have to force myself on Saturday and Sunday and even on the weekdays during the week to turn it off and to, just put my phone in another room, ignore the dings, ignore the emails, and just be present with my family, which is hard to do when you're not able to turn off work. So there's definitely, kind of a balance. But yeah, absolutely. I'm totally filled up and find so much purpose in what I do.
And I like what you said. So on Sunday, some people have a bad gut feeling when they have to go back to work on Monday, right? Mm-hmm. And I like to do always one test with people if they say I found my purpose or not. So I ask them, once you've been, for example, on Hawaii, 3 weeks on the island or Maldives or something, and you go back to work. Do you love to go back to work or not? And when you say, yes, I really love to go back to work, I think then you really have found your purpose. Because it's difficult if you're on this beautiful island and then you go back and the values don't really match with what you stand for. And then you have a bad gut feeling, right? But if it's fully aligned, then you love to go back and you enjoy also the work.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I think that a lot of people can't say that they would be on an island and they would answer yes to that question, Daniel, where they would be like, yes, I'm so excited to go back to work. And, it probably goes back to that 80% statistic where 80% of people are actually unfulfilled and unsatisfied in their work. So I think this is a call to action today. If you are part of that 80% of people that is feeling unsatisfied, you're not feeling that sense of purpose, it's probably time for you to take that next step and start to find some of that clarity.
I fully agree, because many people, they are disengaged at work or they just go there to get the money and they look for hobbies that fulfill them, but at the end it's just short-term pleasures. And I think you also need to find your passions and what you love to do linked to this beneficial part for others. And once you can all align these things and you have a fulfilled life at the end. And yeah, we spend so much time with superficial things and reflecting some hours, some days with what really drives you. I think it's absolutely crucial for life, and it would also prevent lots of burnouts, lots of mental health issues, and this disengagement part at work. And maybe one call to action, as this would be also one call to action for the employees or for us, the individuals, but also for the companies, I would give a call to action, because quite often when the interviews happens, they just ask for qualification and if they fit for this position. And I think every company should also find out what is really the purpose of each employee and see the group purpose. Do they both match, and also the company purpose, because they should all be aligned. And then to have open and transparent communication between boss and employee, and to find out, do we really have the same values? Do I provide you the environment? Because if you just squeeze people in a box, they will never perform over 100%. They will never be at their best. I think it's key to create this environment, and then the people can thrive. And if it's not the environment, then it's better also to leave and to look for something else. But this squeezing in the box, I am personally finding it's really detrimental for mental health and for performance.
Yeah, that's a great point. It shouldn't all be on the employee if you work for somebody, right? Your employer should take action too and figure out what lights that person up, what fulfills them, what brings them purpose, and then align their position with those things. Because in the end, that's going to be beneficial for both the employee and the employer, because the employee is going to be super motivated internally to continue doing what they're doing, to continually outperform and just to do better and to grow with the company. And then for the companies, they're going to retain their top employees and they're going to keep them happy and they're going to be more productive. They're probably going to start earning even more revenue if they take the time to figure out what is it that lights that person up?
I fully agree. Maybe one argument is that, okay, we have this given operations and we have a certain framework. I fully agree.
Sure.
But every company has a yearly roadmap with strategic actions. And for example, to check with the employees, what do they burn for? What is their passion? And then allocate these actions regarding the passions or the purpose would already be so beneficial. And then you bring more and more in the work life what the people love to do and do not squeeze them into certain tasks or boxes.
Yeah, totally. So Daniel, what would be one of the biggest takeaways from our conversation today?
So I think the biggest takeaway for everyone is that the clarity, what you really stand for, what is your authentic identity. This is key when you take decisions, what kind of career steps you want to take. And it's not about position, money, or authority. It's really about, what kind of passions do I want to live? How can I benefit others? And then align everything with this purpose, mastery, and autonomy part, because this is a driver for intrinsic motivation. But it all starts with clarity. When we have a clear view of what we really want in life, then the decisions are easy. It's not anymore, will I take this job? It's toxic, but I earn a lot or not. It's crystal clear. If it's not aligned with my values, I will not do it. And I will also try to bring small routines which are aligned to these values into my daily life so that I get more and more of what I really stand for. I think this is the key.
Love that. Well, Daniel, where can we find you on social media?
I'm sorry?
Where can we find you on social media?
On social media, well, I have the LinkedIn profile where I post actually daily. Then I have the website, www.mindsetchallenger.com, also in Instagram. And I also just created some online trainings in Udemy, also about this topic, Career Mastery Accelerator course. But mostly I would say in LinkedIn.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you too, Mary. It was really a pleasure to be here. And I hope the topic was interesting.
Thanks for listening. I will be releasing episodes every Monday, so be sure to subscribe on the platform that you are watching this, give it a 5-star review, and we'll see you next time.